Yeah, I think that even myself, I was looking at TCU. The reason they're in the top four is because they're undefeated. The whole blemishless thing does get you some street credit. But I said number five, number six, number seven, and so on. If faced head to head with TCU, they would probably go down. I'm rethinking that tonight after their defensive performance against the Texas Longhorns and specifically their run defense. Texas has a fantastic stable of backs in
Hmm.
Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson. Bijan Robinson, 12 carries, 29 yards, no touchdowns tonight. Roshan Johnson, 5 carries, 14 yards on the night, no touchdowns. That is a tip of the cap to everything that Sonny Dykes is doing down there in Fort Worth. They're not just slinging the ball around, which is the tree of coaching he comes from. They are also getting it done on the defensive side of the ball, and they're the real deal. They are the real deal as of today. 10-0. That's tough to get to. They got a couple games left on their schedule, but in my opinion, they will find themselves as the champion of the Big 12, as well as a member of the college football playoff as it stands today.
Wow. Hack, are you as big a believer in these guys as your Big 12 brother?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Trevor's point, the undefeated, unblemished thing is massive, and I think he brings up a great point too about the defense. I thought both defenses came out smoking today. I just think the maturity of this TCU offense kind of was able to grind it out. And to use a phrase that you used earlier about Ohio State, George, I think they won without their fastball today. They were able to get some explosives, but not as many on the offensive side of the ball. They made it count when they could. Max Duggan, I think he got sacked damn near 7, 8, 9 times, got hit many, many more. Stood in there, made some big throws. So yeah, I think that as long as they continue to win, it's going to be damn near impossible to leave them out. Now, to Trevor's earlier point, I don't know how well they match up and how well their game travels, right? But I think within their conference, they played probably the most unpredictable beast in Texas today at Texas and got it done. And I think cruising down. Who do they have left? They got
Baylor and Iowa State.
Baylor and Iowa State, right? And Baylor just got their teeth kicked in by Kansas State, and Iowa State. Who knows? They're out there thumb wrestling with somebody, but if they can continue to run this out, win the conference championship, I don't see why they couldn't be considered and why they shouldn't be considered. And I think it'd be really hard to leave them out.
Trevor, Hack makes a good point. Texas is so unpredictable. And when the committee carries this win in there for TCU, Alabama went in and played Texas right out of the gates, escaped with a 1-point win. Here comes TCU carrying the weight of the world and a conference on their shoulders, and they controlled this thing from start to finish. There really wasn't any drama in this, and the only touchdown that the Longhorns got was a fluke deal on defense, basically a shutout. And to add to that, the wildest stat to me, looking at this stat chart sent over by our producer Trevor Valise, third down tonight. TCU 7 out of 18, Texas 1 out of 13. They could not get through on third down. Will the committee keep this in mind? Because now TCU has gone up against Texas, so has another legacy team, and they actually did better. Will that boost them?
I think it can. I don't know if Texas is their big win though. It's one of those wins that it's a top 20 matchup at the time. If Texas ends up winning the next two, which they should, they're an 8-4 team. So, don't hang your hat on that one. What's going to be their notch is if they can go blemishless and they can beat Kansas State twice in the same year. They beat them once. Now they got to play them again, most likely in the conference championship game. If they can beat a good Kansas State team twice, that's going to be their reason to get in. If they don't go blemishless, obviously they're not getting in. And if they lose in the Big 12 title game, no Big 12 team is getting in my opinion. But Texas, to me, they've played some teams tight, but that's not one to hang your hat on.
That's a good point. Hack, last point, and they brought this up in the broadcast. TCU has beaten 4 teams this year with backup quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Does that carry any weight or any drag on what they've done?
No, I don't think it does. You can't control that. That's a variable that's out there. They've won games in a lot of different fashions. I think they've had 4 second half come from behind victories, meaning you go into halftime down, you make your halftime adjustments, you're still down in the third quarter, and then you come out and you win the game in the second half. So they've won games in a lot of different ways. I think the unique thing, though, to kind of steer this to the college football playoff, I think that's going to be a theme of the show tonight, is that how much weight we're talking about wins and the optics of certain wins, right? But I think at the end of the day, when you're talking about something as big as the college football playoffs, you have to look at the big picture, and the big picture is conference championships, right? So, one thing Darian Rencher brought up on our show earlier this week was the weight of a conference championship and how hard it is to go undefeated in a season. And realistically speaking, there's a really good chance that we're going to have 2 undefeateds, one from the Big Ten, one from the SEC, right? But then there's going to be that looming kind of elephant in the room. And does the committee bring a second SEC team, whether that be a one loss? And this is if Georgia wins the SEC championship, right? Do they bring a 1-loss Tennessee team, or do they bring an LSU team who's a 2-loss team from the West? Or does the conference championship actually carry weight this year? And are we going to see a 1 team from the SEC, 1 team from the Big Ten, and then conference championship, whether it be ACC, Big 12, and Pac-12? Because let's not forget, even though Oregon went down, and I'm sure I'm getting ahead, but this could be a great segue for you here, George. Oregon went down, but we got 2 other teams sitting down in LA that have 1 losses and are going to be able to control their own destiny here heading out for the rest of the season. So that's, I think, a really good conversation to have.